Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 68. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on another movie discussion where we dive into a movie, we discuss our overall thoughts, give you my favorite moments or scenes, and even recommend whether you should watch it in theaters or wait for streaming or maybe even skip it. On this week's episode, we're going to be covering Guy Ritchie's new movie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It is a long title. It took me a bunch of times to try to crack it, but I finally got it this time. If you guys know any of Guy Ritchie's movies, again, he's made a lot of films like The Covenant, The Gentleman, Man from U.N.C.L.E., so you can already expect that there's going to be a lot of action in this movie, and boy, is there a lot of it. Just by watching the trailers, you get to see Henry Cavill. He's kind of like the lead star in this movie, and his group and his team is basically trying to knock out as many Nazis as possible. So this film actually revolves around World War II, and it's actually based on a true story. It's actually based on Operation Postmaster, which is actually under Winston Churchill. He had a group of folks try to help him sink a specific warship that is controlled by the Nazis. I'm in. Again, all that action that I was able to see in the trailers got me really hooked. I also really enjoy Henry Cavill. I enjoyed watching him since he came out in Man of Steel, so any movie he comes out in, I'm going to make an effort to try to check it out in theaters as well. All right, guys, I think this is a great opportunity to go ahead and dive into my overall thoughts for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And I gotta say, after checking it out in Dolby Cinema, this movie was such a fun time. There was so much action in this movie, so many sequences. You have a sequence on a boat, you have a sequence on military camps, you even have sequences on the bay where the ships are. There's just so much going on from an action perspective, and I freaking loved it. Again, You've heard me on various podcasts. I'm going to sound like a broken record today, but action movies are typically the ones that I gravitate the most to. There are things that, again, from an action perspective, they just keep me locked in and engaged on the big screen, so I freaking loved it. One of the things that I also really appreciated about this movie is the psychotic and crazy team that is revolved around this film. Like I mentioned, Henry Cavill is the star. He plays the character of Gus, and he actually leads a couple of other guys on this team to try to sink this warship that is controlled by the Nazis. This warship actually has a name, and the name of that ship is actually the Duquesa de Acosta. Going forward, I'm just going to call it Duquesa, but their goal is to try to sink that ship, and again, the piece that I really enjoyed so much about this movie is this psychotic group and their chemistry. They were just so funny. They all were so unique in their own craziness. Like they were all deranged. They were all criminals in some type of a way, and they had their own specialty as well. One was able to shoot bow and arrows. One was able to come up and devise with plans. Somebody else was really good with explosive. You also had somebody that can manage the boats. So everybody had their own specialty, and that's what made them such a great team. So I really enjoyed it as well. Also got a note, just kind of a random thing that I've noticed after kind of watching this movie is that it's so crazy how much content there is about World War II. Yeah, I mean, there's movies, there's shows. I mean, just thinking about different types of films that have come out, like you have like Saving Private Ryan, Dunkirk, you have Pearl Harbor. You have so many different films and shows that revolve around this, and it makes sense, right? It's such a global and universal event that impacts every country that was involved. So it makes sense why there would be so many stories. But again, what I really appreciate about this film that Guy Ritchie was able to make is that they kind of went another way around it in that it's still based on a true story, but they added the element of comedy. So again, they try to make it sort of lighthearted and kind of show you the craziness of it, but they also try to, again, base it in reality in that, hey, this is a real mission involving real people. Again, it's so crazy how much content that has come from just this kind of a global event. But again, I really appreciate Guy Ritchie's take on it and adding a little bit of comedy rather than going like a straight serious route as well. So really good stuff. Again, I enjoyed the movie. Let's go ahead and dive into some pros, and then we'll kind of discuss any cons that I may have. First pro for me has got to be the opening sequence of this movie. It was so well done, and it was shot just very beautifully. It all took place on a boat, and what's happening here is basically Henry Cavill, who plays Gus. He is basically accompanied by his friend, who is played by Alan Ritchson. He actually plays this character from Denmark named Lassen, and they basically end up having to try to take out an initial Nazi warship that tries to board their boat. And again, this kind of highlights everybody's skills at the beginning, and it's just so much fun. There's jokes thrown around, there's throat slashes, there's gunshots, there's things exploding. Everything was just so crazy, but not too over the top and exaggerated that kind of took you out of the movie. Again, it just set the tone for what kind of a movie this was going to be. You were going to see some destruction, you were going to see some action, you were going to see some crazy kills, but you were also going to get some laughs out of it as well. So really good stuff, and it just immediately hooked me from the beginning. So if you guys have checked it out, let me know what you thought about that opening sequence for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Moving on to my second pro, I also got to call out the score and the music that was used in this film. Again, a nice little touch by Guy Ritchie and the team and the composer as well to just kind of make this film kind of follow the actions of what the team was doing. And if there was chaotic scenes or chaotic moments, the music would kind of follow that as well. There was a lot of drum used throughout in different types of scenes. Some of the times the drum was just kind of hitting a cymbal like that, and then eventually when there was kind of chaos going around, gunshots going off, and just a bunch of death going around, you just kind of hear like the craziness and the intensity of the music just kind of keep rising and rising with the tension. So shout out to the composer for this film. Just great job and how the music just added another element to it. When it revolved around the team, the music was just perfect. It just fit so well with what was going on. And whenever the team was on a mission and going like stealth or going right into battle, you again hear the music just rise up and kind of be very triumphant in a kind of way, but also be very chaotic because again, these characters, they're not necessarily good people, right? They're all criminals. And so you could tell by the music, again, it's just going crazy with these drums and just having it be very much tension filled, but I freaking loved it as well. So again, great stuff with the music that was used in this movie. Third and final pro for me was the team's chemistry. I kind of teased this a little bit in the overall thoughts at the beginning, but man, it's one of my favorite parts. Whenever the team was around in the movie, that's where I enjoyed the movie the most. Again, Gus and his group, they just all had their own specific unique skills. Like I called out, Lassen, played by Alan Ritchson, he was the big man. He was the Denmark hammer, and he would always use a bow and arrow, and he had some of the coolest kills in the movie, either using his bow and arrow or using an arrow to just freaking stab people and just kill Nazis like crazy. You had Henry Golding, who played Freddy Alvarez. He was the bomb specialist. So his job was to basically try to use as much as he could to try to sink ships, to destroy and explode different types of armory. It was just really good stuff. But again, everybody together was just so great and funny, and the chemistry was just on point. Everybody just knew their part. They would laugh at each other. You could tell again that they were kind of teasing each other throughout the film, but it was all just in good fun as well. So really good stuff by the filmmakers to kind of get these actors together. And again, the chemistry just works so well for me. You would have them almost competing sometimes, like, hey, there's maybe like 100 Nazis. Let's divide them between all three of us, but let's all have fun. And so it's like a bunch of ridiculous stuff. And I know, again, killing is obviously never like a good thing to kind of show in movies because, again, it could be very dark. But in this case, again, because it's Nazis, because it's, again, a mission that ended up succeeding, Nazis were taken down. But again, it's just having it be that lighthearted fun just makes the movie that much more enjoyable and doesn't let you it kind of glosses over like, hey, this is obviously a very dark topic. You're seeing a lot of death, but again, it's for a good cause, right? They're trying to sink this ship in order to cut off those supply lines as well. All right, now I got to move over to just one of the cons that I had. It's only one, but it actually was a big one for me. And that was actually the subplot that was going on within the movie, which actually involved the characters of Marjorie Stewart and Mr. Heron. Marjorie was actually played by Eiza Gonzalez, and Mr. Heron was actually played by Babs Olusanmakan. Pretty sure I mispronounced that, so apologies, Babs. But that subplot of Mr. Heron and Marjorie, I don't know, it didn't really work for me. Again, what the film would do is that it would go from, showing Gus's team, them on the boat, trying to get to that warship, and then it would cut over to Marjorie and Mr. Heron, and they would, again, be trying to help out on their own part by either setting up a big party for the Nazis, distracting them. And again, it made sense, but to me, it actually very much slowed down the movie. And those were actually the parts where I was like, okay, can we speed this up? Because I really want to see Gus and his team. I really want to check out them. I really enjoy what they're doing. And again, every time we would kind of flip-flop and show Marjorie and Heron, again, it was just, I know that it moved the story along, and they did have a big part to play. But to me, again, it didn't really fit with the vibe, and it kind of just slowed down the pace for me at various times. So I guess on a good note, every time it ended with Marjorie and Heron, and it went over to Gus and his team, I got super excited in the movie because I was like, okay, cool. Now we get to see some more action. Now we get to see more of this team interact. So again, that was just my biggest con. It's just that subplot. Again, I know that it had its purpose to kind of move the story along and help them out. Again, that subplot ends up giving Gus's team a little bit more warning about this ship and what they have to do. But I don't know, something about it it didn't really vibe with me. There was too much showing on that specific part. I kind of wish they maybe cut a little bit more of those scenes between Marjorie and Heron and what they were doing near that warship, and kind of maybe add more scenes and more time with the crew of crazy psychotic individuals and how they are planning to try to destroy that ship. So, and just a personal nitpick on my side, I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority on that side. Pretty sure a lot of people like both plots as well. But again, just for me, that subplot of Marjorie and Mr. Heron, again, it just didn't work for me that much. I always thought it was kind of slowing down the movie. Overall, though, again, I still really enjoyed all of those specific types of performances. Speaking of performances of the different actors that came out in the film, let's go ahead and dive into who I really enjoyed in the movie. Like I mentioned, a lot of crazy action, a lot of stuff going on in the movie. But if I had to choose one actor or actress, I have to go with Alan Ritchson as Anders Lassen. He just, like I mentioned before, he had the coolest kills, but he also had some funny lines that he was delivering as well. And again, I know that this film is more so not revolving around like the character arcs and what characters are going through. This is definitely more of like a plot type of a movie and a narrative that it's trying to tell you. But even then, again, Alan Ritchson just killed it in this role. Again, him just being this very, on the outside, he's a big bulky guy and he's very sweet. But then when he speaks like that, it's just like, yeah, I'm going to collect like 100 Nazi hearts and I'm just going to kill as many as I can. And he was a psychotic monster like that whenever he faced off against Nazis. But it was just so much fun to see him go, cut down as many Nazis as he could, but also hilarious when he would deliver any lines to Gus or to Freddy or to Hayes as well. So really good stuff. So my favorite performance was Alan Ritchson as Lassen. As for my favorite moment of the movie, it actually came at the end. And you're actually going to be surprised that it wasn't an action scene. It was actually a speech. And what that speech was actually Winston Churchill ends up coming up at the end. Spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen the movie. Again, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil something that happens at the end. So definitely leave and then come back after you've checked out the movie. All right. So what ends up happening is that after the mission is done, Gus and his team all get together and they're all basically imprisoned because, again, this was a secret Black Ops mission. Nobody knew about it, so they get imprisoned and they get taken to jail. And they're all handcuffed and they're all taken to a room and it almost looks like they're about to be executed in a way. And then all of a sudden you hear somebody talk and then you hear a cane kind of coming in through the hallway, and it's actually Winston Churchill. And he basically gives a great speech and he basically explains how this group of individuals helped England stay alive and not get taken over by the Nazis, and then eventually able to withstand so that America can then come in and take part in the war. And then at the end of the movie, he ends up saying, go ahead and take off the handcuffs. These people work for me now. And then everybody just kind of looked at each other, and then they look at Gus, and Gus just kind of gives the acknowledgement of like, yeah, we're working for Winston Churchill now. We're working for the Prime Minister. It was a really cool scene. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I was expecting. In my mind, I thought because this was like a Black Ops mission, I thought there was going to be a lot of death and the whole team was going to basically not survive the end of the movie. But it was really cool that they were able to survive. And then at the end of the day, they were all criminals at the beginning of the movie. And now they were actually made special operations of Winston Churchill. So really cool stuff. Again, I really enjoyed that speech, and I really enjoyed how it ended for all these characters, basically getting to work with Winston Churchill as well. So really good stuff. If I had to recommend it, again, if you're really into action movies like I am, I definitely recommend you guys go check this out in theaters. Definitely do it in Dolby Cinema as well, or any theater that has really good speakers. Again, you're going to hear a lot of crazy explosions, gunshots, a lot of different types of action sequences going around. So definitely recommend you guys go watch it in theaters. And again, let me know what your thoughts are after you've been able to check it out. Go down below in the comments and let me know if you enjoyed the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. All right, everybody. Now that we've kind of gone through all the thoughts and recommendations, let's go ahead and dive into a deep question, which is this movie timeless? Can I see myself rewatching this movie over and over again? I gotta be honest, again, at this moment, even though I did enjoy the movie, I will say that I do not see this as a timeless movie in my opinion. Although, again, compared to other war movies, this actually is really good. Again, I would probably rather watch this one maybe than Pearl Harbor, or maybe watch this one than other films like Dunkirk. Just because, again, I think it adds the element of being unique in that, again, it's a comedy. Once again, I don't see it as a timeless movie that where I can just keep rewatching it every single year and add it to my playlist of movies that I know I'm going to rewatch. If I were to recommend like a war movie to someone, I actually would point to this one as well. So again, still very much high praise. I still really enjoyed it. Just again, after I left the movie, I was like, yeah, hey, I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this team and this crazy characters and what they went through on this journey. But, one time was enough for me. But guys, I really want to hear from you. What do you think about this film? Do you think the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is a timeless movie? Am I wrong? Let me know down below. Definitely want to discuss and hear your thoughts as to why you think this is a movie that you can rewatch over and over and over again. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for all those that stayed all the way through. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 68 of the Timeless Movie Podcast, and I'll check you guys out on the next episode. Thanks so much, guys.